Welcome to the 30th weekly update on what's going on across Greater Brisbane for 2025 on the Brisbane Channel, and this week's a massive one, with Ekka Holiday details, public transport news, bridge protests, flight paths, green bins, planned developments and more. I also have a confession to make about my recent confession video, and a movie ticket giveaway to the preview screening of a heartwarming new Australian family film. While I didn't do a midweek update this week, you can partly blame Star Trek for that. There will be one for this coming week to keep this Sunday one somewhat manageable. The midweek update will have details from this week's teacher strike, Cross River Rail updates, Gabba area development details, an update on the nurses' pay and conditions negotiations, and a new challenge to Victoria Park's development, details of clearing of endangered forests in our area, and more. But let's get to today's updates. Firstly, the Ekka is officially on, and while you may or may not plan to go, one thing to be aware of is the public holiday we all get, apart from Ipswich, but we'll get to that. For people living in Brisbane, it will be on Wednesday the 13th of August, and for those in Moreton Bay, Redlands and Logan, it will be on Monday the 11th. Each LGA only gets one show day holiday each year, and as Ipswich has its own show in May, that was when residents got their public holiday, so they don't get one for the Ekka. While we'll be looking at 1 year of 50-cent fares in the midweek update, this week Brisbane City Council announced how the recent changes to the bus network have impacted the city. These include the introduction of the M1 Metro bus route and alterations to many other routes on June 30, particularly on the south side and in the CBD. Lord Mayor Adrian Schrinner celebrated a 30% reduction in congestion on the Victoria Bridge and a 3.5 increase in patronage of the former Route 66, which was replaced by the M2 bus route. But not everyone's happy with the changes. When the Metro buses replaced Route 66, the Dutton Place bus station was cut from the route. This was due to the station not being designed to handle the longer buses and no alterations being made to the station. Independent councillor Nicole Johnston and Greens councillor Trina Massey have launched a petition for the route to be upgraded, with the Metro bus stopping at Dutton Place as Route 66 did. They say the current route creates a significant service gap for Annalee, Fairfield and Dutton Park residents who live within 1 kilometre of the bus station. I've put a link to the petition in the video description. The opposition in council are also not celebrating the new bus network, saying that residents out in the suburbs are ditching buses for cars due to the changes not serving those in more outlying areas. While Brisbane City Council promoted the new Metro bus routes as being something that would allow them to free up buses that could be allocated to other routes, the recent Establishment and Coordination Committee report shows that 118 buses will be retired, with only 76 new buses replacing them over the next 2 years. So we'll actually have fewer buses in our network overall. It does appear that the introduction of the Metro buses have eased congestion on the busway around the cultural centre, but the overall changes appear to fall short of improving access to public transport for those living further out from the city centre. Let me take a moment to thank the sponsor of this video, YB Painting, who are offering viewers of the Brisbane Channel a 10% discount on any of their services. I've seen them at work and their meticulous attention to detail is evident. Their fixed pricing and 5-year warranty on all their work means there'll be no unpleasant surprises. Claim your 10% discount by scanning this QR code or the link in the video description. Let's move now to an update on the Story Bridge footpaths. This week, Brisbane City Council released details on what we can expect the new paths to look like. The decking will be made of reinforced polymer composite material that sits on steel joists. The material is similar to that used on the boardwalk along the river next to the Queensland Art Gallery and Queensland Library. And speaking of the Story Bridge, there are plans underway for not 1 but 2 protests on the 24th of August on the bridge. The first is in relation to the partial closure of the Kangaroo Point Bridge on the same day for a Brisbane Fashion Festival event. The Kangaroo Point Bridge is part of Brisbane City Council's suggested detour for active transport users and pedestrians. The Story Bridge Active Travel Alliance will use 1 lane of the Story Bridge for their own fashion show from 11 a.m, titled Infrastructure Neglect Winter Collection. The second protest, whose application is currently being assessed by the Queensland Police, is for 1 p.m. on the same day. The group Justice for Palestine plan to march from Raymond Park in Kangaroo Point across the bridge and to Centenary Place in the Valley in solidarity with the Palestinian Australians. They say we might be the ones spared the bombs, but we are not spared responsibility. Protesters say that the Lord Mayor refused to light the Story Bridge up in the colours of the Palestinian flag as part of the Light Up Brisbane initiative. I tried to find details of when that was applied for, but couldn't find anything. Staying in Brisbane City, and the rollout of green bins as a standard part of household bins has begun. Remember that if you're a homeowner, you'll be charged the extra cost for the bin whether you opt out or not. Here's the schedule for when you can expect your bin to show up. In recent updates, we saw the run of incidents with air bridges at Brisbane Airport, and this week the plans of hundreds of travellers were disrupted in the domestic terminal of Brisbane Airport. A fault was detected in one of the metal detectors, and all passengers and staff had to exit and pass through security a second time. But the big news for Brisbane Airport revolves around the release of the preliminary draft 2026 master plan, which includes a new terminal to be opened in the early 2030s, support for air taxis, which are still an emerging technology, but one that we covered on the Brisbane Channel a while back in this video. But perhaps one of the most hopeful parts is the possibility that we may be able to avoid the expensive air train and get to the airport for 50 cents without needing to use the DFO shuttle hack. If you don't know about that hack, I'll link a couple of videos from other channels about how to avoid the air train without needing to drive or take an Uber to the airport. But back to the transport update, a metro bus stop is included in the plans for the airport. The caveat is that the airport has no power to end the exclusivity deal that AirTrain currently has for transport to the airport, so it would require the Queensland Government to come to an agreement with AirTrain before metro bus services could connect with the airport. Of course, we'll keep you posted here on the Brisbane Channel. And as there's a lot in the airport master plan, let me know if you'd like me to make a video unpacking all the details of the plan here on the Brisbane Channel. And while we're talking aviation, as the consultation sessions continue with regard to Air Services Australia's Noise Action Plan, Bayside residents and the advocacy group Save Bayside Skies have expressed their strong opposition to plans that could see commercial jets flying as low as 549 metres over residential areas in Wynnum North, Wynnum West, Manly, Hemmant and Lytton, as well as parts of Moreton Bay Marine Park. Figures released by Kids Helpline show that Logan's youth are more likely to contact them for suicide-related concerns than in most other parts of Australia. The national average percentage of calls to the organisation that relate to suicide is about 16%. For Queensland, it's 20%, and for Logan, 29%. Tony Fitzgerald, Virtual Service Manager for Kids Helpline, says that while contributing factors could include increased exposure to cost of living issues and bullying, the figures may also indicate that more children are aware of the services available to them and are utilising them more. He also noted that as a multicultural LGA, Logan stood out for the number of callers from different linguistic and cultural backgrounds, saying that it was positive that people from diverse cultures had identified the need to reach out for help. But let's get to something a bit lighter. Do you have an electric guitar or bass lying around collecting dust? Brisbane Festival is looking for instruments they can borrow for the 100 Guitars workshop and performance taking place during the festival. If you want to help out or be a part of it, you can email 100guitars@topologymusic.com. If you'd like to catch up in person, I'll be joining a bunch of other Brisbane YouTube creators at a creator subscriber meetup next Sunday at the Norman B Hotel in Red Hill. I did put something about it on the post tab on the channel, but it seems nobody saw that. Maybe I'll see you there, but let's get back to the updates. In a recent update on the channel, we mentioned the issues with the wastewater system caused by damage to one of the pipes in the Hamilton-Bulimba siphon. Well, Urban Utilities has announced that installation of the temporary bypass pipeline is now complete. That means they'll be able to take the siphon offline to safely re-enter the tunnel and continue restoration works. Of course, we'll keep you updated on the project here on the Brisbane Channel. We'll jump to a couple of developments changing the face of Greater Brisbane, one in the Brisbane CBD and one up in Moreton Bay. The Brisbane one has just been submitted for approval and is a very skinny 36-storey residential tower at 457 Adelaide Street. The site is currently a 5-level commercial building, but the new building will house 20 large 3-bedroom apartments. There would be either whole floor or dual level, apparently with space for your baby grand piano. However, the city centre neighbourhood plan only allows a maximum of 12 stories for sites of this scale, so the application is subject to impact assessment and public notification. In a pre-lodgement meeting with Brisbane City Council, it was made clear that approval would be conditional on the building having outstanding architectural merit and best practice subtropical design, which the applicant is confident has been achieved. Meanwhile, in Moreton Bay, a development application has been submitted for a new 5-star resort at Sandstone Point by the Comiskey Group. With 200 hotel rooms across 2 buildings and a bunch of resorty things like a wellness centre and gym, swim-up bar, and even a bowling alley, the development is expected to be completed ahead of the 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games. And staying up in Moreton Bay, the new free exhibition Da Vinci Machines has opened across a number of Moreton Bay museums. The exhibition, which is on loan from the Museum of Leonardo da Vinci in Florence, showcases 60 of da Vinci's most iconic inventions, meticulously constructed from his original sketches. It will run until the 2nd of November, and I've put a link in the video description. Over now to Ipswich, where there is no shortage of sporting talent. First Ash Barty and Gaut and now 18-year-old Rigdon Vakalahi will be the first Australian name to participate in the most prestigious American football games for schoolboys at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium for Military Appreciation Bowl week in December. 16-year-old Reed Vakalahi and Jailio Ete, who is 14, will also travel to the States for major showpiece games which will be attended by scouts from colleges and pro football teams. They're part of an officially recognised US football pathway system called Level Up Gridiron, which is based in Goodna, that gives local athletes the opportunity to enter the US football system. It was launched in January this year by former NFL player Lance Iosefa and his wife. The program has seen 10 high school students receive the opportunity to further their academic and gridiron opportunities in the US. And keeping with the sporting theme in Ipswich, 2 new free fitness classes designed for people of all abilities will be kicking off at the Goodna Community Centre. On the 20th of this month, an adaptive CrossFit class called Equal Ops will begin. It follows a circuit-style format using equipment like dumbbells and kettlebells, and the exercises are fully adaptable to each person's needs. Also in September, Para Powerlifting will begin, a beginner-friendly introduction to powerlifting for people with physical disabilities. Both programs have been made possible by an Active Australia Innovation Challenge grant from the Heart Foundation valued at $33,000. The grants are aimed at empowering people with disabilities to try new activities that bring both physical and mental benefits. Okay, so at the start of the video, I said I had a confession about the confession video I made earlier this week. I realized that an element of the video was a bit hypocritical, and I just want to briefly address that here. After claiming to be all about looking at things in their full complexity and being objective and balanced as possible, I then made some sweeping generalizations about what I referred to as mainstream media. I realized that those statements were by no means balanced or neutral, and to be honest, they didn't acknowledge the work of people within what perhaps would more accurately be called corporate media, who try to report in a balanced way themselves. And the reality is that as I have limited access to primary sources, I often utilize those media outlets myself in staying up to date with what's happening so that I can then curate the information to bring together in this channel's videos. Yes, there can be strong biases in some corporate media outlets reporting, but that doesn't mean there isn't people trying to bring more balanced reporting that still work for those large corporations. I shouldn't have spoken as though there is no variation in quality, accuracy, and balance between different outlets and even within them. I think there's advantages and drawbacks with both large corporate media outlets and small independent players such as the Brisbane Channel, and perhaps I exaggerated the differences between the two in that video as well. I'm always learning. But I also want to thank you for all the encouraging words in the comments section of that video. I really appreciate them. If ever the YouTube grind starts to get to me, I'll return to those comments for a bit of a pick-me-up, so thank you so much. This week I've got another movie ticket giveaway to the preview screening of a new Aussie film coming to Brisbane cinemas next month. The film is called Kangaroo. It's a heartwarming family film about an ex-TV personality and a 12-year-old Indigenous girl who bond while rescuing orphan joeys in the Australian outback. It hits cinemas on September 18, and there's a link to the trailer in the video description. I have 5 family tickets, that's 5 Admit 4 tickets, to the preview screening on Sunday the 31st of August at 10:30 a.m. I checked and the tickets can be used by 4 people of any age. You don't need to actually be a family. We try not to discriminate on this channel. To enter, head to the Brisbane Channel's Instagram account, make sure you're following, give the kangaroo film post a thumbs up, and add a comment tagging a friend. I'll draw the winners in a live stream at 7 PM on Friday the 15th of August. Some people have been asking about when the next Bun Me Quest video will be out, and all I can say is that it is coming, but it really depends on when Jade has the time to join me for it and isn't exhausted from work. But it should be in the next couple of weeks. Surely. Also, don't forget this is only half of the weekly update. The midweek update will have all of these things and more. One more thing, I've been trying to think of a way to end these videos apart from the same old see you in the next video. So if you have any suggestions for a catchphrase or something to end the videos with, I'm all ears. I'm not really sure which video to recommend you watch next, but when I click Best for Viewer, this is what YouTube suggests for you. And until someone suggests a great alternative for a tagline, you'll see me there or in the next video.